Every day we pass by towering skyscrapers, scroll through headlines and listen to speeches about transparency, fairness, and justice. We're told that great fortunes are built through hard work, innovation, and taking risks. But what if the truth is far darker? What if the wealthiest people on Earth aren't just good at making money? They're masters at making it disappear. Welcome to the hidden architecture of global wealth, a parallel financial universe that exists right under our noses. A world where trillions of dollars quietly flow between invisible borders, untouched by taxes, regulators, or consequences. It's a system so complex, so carefully engineered, that even governments struggle to explain how it all works. And yet, it's completely legal. The story often begins on a quiet tropical island, maybe the Cayman Islands, Bermuda, or the British Virgin Islands. White sand, clear water, and calm skies. But beneath that paradise lies one of the most powerful tools ever invented by the wealthy, the shell company. A shell company doesn't produce anything. It doesn't employ anyone. It doesn't sell a single product. It exists for one reason: to hide. That single, unassuming address might be the official home of thousands of companies. One small room, a handful of computers, and billions of dollars passing through, all legally owned by people who will never set foot there. This is where the illusion begins. Imagine a billionaire in New York. He earns hundreds of millions from his tech empire. If he keeps that money in the US, he'll owe 35 to 40% in taxes. But if he transfers those profits to a shell company in the Cayman Islands, that company, not him, owns the income. And because the Cayman Islands charge zero corporate tax, the fortune vanishes into the void, untaxed and unseen. He can even borrow from his own offshore company at low interest, paying himself tax-free loans, and still appear completely clean on paper. To the outside world, he's just an honest businessman optimizing his assets. In reality, he's running a legal illusion that shields more money than the annual budgets of some nations. But how did this system come to exist? It didn't appear overnight. It was built, brick by brick, law by law, by the very institutions we're taught to trust. British bankers in the 1960s pioneered the first offshore accounts to serve international elites. American lawyers followed, creating complex trusts and anonymous corporations. By the 1980s, secrecy had become a global product, sold to anyone with enough money to afford invisibility. Today, there are more than 80 tax havens around the world, from Switzerland to Singapore, from Panama to Delaware in the United States. Each one promises the same thing: privacy, protection, and zero questions asked. They call it asset protection. But what they're really protecting is power, because the rich don't just hide money to save on taxes, they hide it to keep control. If you can move your wealth across borders faster than laws can follow, no single government can touch you. You don't answer to nations, nations begin to answer to you. Here's the great irony. You and I pay more tax, proportionally, than many billionaires do. The teacher, the nurse, the factory worker, they can't afford an offshore trust. Their income is visible, traceable, and taxable. But for the elite, the system is designed to make their wealth vanish in plain sight. And it's not just individuals. Multinational corporations, from tech giants to oil empires, use these same strategies on an even grander scale. They have perfected the art of reporting losses in high-tax countries while reporting massive profits in low-tax ones. Apple, Google, Amazon, all have used intricate offshore structures to legally save billions. And while governments pretend to crack down, the loopholes remain wide open. Why? Because many of those same companies help fund the political campaigns of the people who write the laws. In 2016, the Panama Papers blew the first major hole in this invisible empire. Over 11 million leaked documents exposed how world leaders, dictators, and billionaires used shell companies to hide their wealth. The leak revealed secret accounts linked to presidents, prime ministers, and even royal families. It was one of the largest data leaks in history, and yet almost no one went to prison, because most of what they did was technically legal. That's the true genius of the system. It doesn't need to break the law. It is the law. Every loophole, every clause, every trust fund was written by expert lawyers and approved by governments that often benefit from the same game. It's not corruption happening in the shadows. It's corruption happening in plain daylight. So the next time we hear that a billionaire is donating to charity or pledging to give back, remember, much of that money was completely invisible before it became generous. It's philanthropy built on a foundation of secrecy, wealth hidden from the public, then displayed for applause. The wealthy aren't running from the system. They are the system. And the deeper we look, the clearer it becomes. This isn't just about money. It's about control. It's about rewriting the rules of fairness, one loophole at a time. Every empire needs architects, people who design the walls, draft the blueprints, and make sure the foundations stay hidden. In the world of secret wealth, those architects wear suits, not masks. They're the lawyers, accountants, and bankers who know how to make money disappear without breaking a single law. It all begins with a phone call. A billionaire contacts a private law firm that specializes in asset protection. No one mentions taxes. No one says the word offshore. Instead, they talk about privacy, stability, and family legacy. Polite words for the oldest trick in finance, secrecy for sale. Within hours, the lawyers register a new company in the Cayman Islands. They choose a generic name, maybe Sunrise Global Holdings Limited, or Blue Harbor Ventures Inc. That company owns nothing yet, but soon it will hold real estate portfolios, stock options, even private jets. All transferred quietly from the billionaire's main business. Sold on paper for just $1, routed through signatures and stamps that look completely legitimate. Next, the accountant steps in. He sets up another company, in Delaware perhaps, to manage the first one. Then a third one in Luxembourg to handle licensing fees. Each layer adds more distance between the owner and the assets. Each layer adds confusion. When investigators come knocking, they find a puzzle with pieces scattered across continents. And every piece points to a different jurisdiction, a different set of laws, and a different definition of ownership. This is called layering, and it's the financial world's invisibility cloak. It doesn't erase money. It just scrambles its trail until the pattern completely vanishes. If the billionaire is questioned, he can smile and say, "I don't control those companies." And he's technically telling the truth, because his trustee does. And the trustee, of course, is just another lawyer sitting behind another desk somewhere offshore. Now multiply that one trick by thousands. Each shell, each trust, each holding company is connected through emails, encrypted servers, and secret agreements stored behind closed doors. This isn't chaos, it's choreography. A financial ballet performed in total silence where the audience sees nothing and the dancers never miss a single step. One of the most popular tools in this elaborate dance is the trust. A trust cleverly separates ownership from control. The billionaire gives up his assets for the benefit of his heirs or a foundation. On paper, he owns nothing. In reality, he still decides everything. Who spends the money, when they spend it, and how. Courts can't touch it. Creditors can't seize it. Tax agencies can't trace it. And the real beauty of it? It looks responsible. It even sounds noble. "I'm just protecting my family's future," he says. And who could possibly argue with that? To maintain this grand illusion, they need faces. They're called nominee directors. These are people paid a few $100s a year to sign paperwork, sit on boards, and pretend to run companies they've never even heard of. Their names appear in the official records, their passports are scanned, but they own absolutely nothing. They are simply placeholders in the grand theater of wealth. One investigation found a single woman who was listed as the director of more than 25,000 companies. 25,000. She wasn't a tycoon. She was just a name for rent. These fake directors act like mirrors. They reflect everything but reveal nothing. Behind them, the real owners keep moving money through a digital labyrinth, from Zurich to Singapore, from Dubai to Nevada, all at the speed of light. And when journalists stumble onto the trail, the system fights back. Letters arrive from powerful law firms threatening lawsuits. Banks close ranks citing client confidentiality. Governments hesitate, worried that exposing the truth will crash investments or anger influential donors. Because here's the hidden irony. These tax havens survive because big economies actually need them. London's banks, New York's hedge funds, Hong Kong's conglomerates, they all rely on the constant flow of offshore money. Without it, global finance would slow, profits would shrink, and the entire illusion of stability would begin to crack. So, the very same leaders who stand on stage promising to fight corruption are the ones who quietly protect the infrastructure that makes it all possible. Every summit on tax fairness ends with smiles, handshakes, and new loopholes written directly into the fine print. In 2021, analysts estimated that at least $11 trillion of global wealth was hidden offshore. That's money that is untaxed, unseen, and untouched. To put that in perspective, that's more than the combined GDP of every single country in Africa. Just imagine what that money could do if it came home. It could build schools, hospitals, clean energy projects, and affordable housing. Instead, it sits silently in accounts guarded by algorithms and shell companies that exist only as lines of code on a server. And yet, for the ultra-rich, this isn't a crime, it's a strategy. They don't think of themselves as villains. They see themselves as clever. They view the tax code as a game, a maze that's meant to be mastered. The winners walk away invisible, the losers are left to pay the bill. This creates the ultimate paradox. The richer you are, the easier it becomes to hide. The poorer you are, the more visible you become. A teacher can't move her paycheck to Bermuda, but a billionaire can move his entire empire with a single phone call. But here's the twist. The system that was built to protect the rich is starting to swallow itself. Governments are finally realizing that when money hides, accountability disappears. Power becomes untouchable. And in that darkness, corruption breeds and grows unchecked. The architects of invisibility built a flawless machine, but even the most perfect machine can break down. The question is, what happens when it does? Every maze needs a keeper. Every secret needs protection. And the offshore system, that shimmering empire of invisible money, is no exception. What most people don't realize is that the machinery of hidden wealth isn't built in the shadows. It's built in plain sight, inside the world's most respected financial centers: London, New York, Hong Kong. These cities are not enemies of offshore secrecy. They're its backbone. When you hear tax haven, you probably think of palm trees, beaches, and shady deals in island nations. But the truth? Most tax havens are run by the very countries that publicly condemn them. Britain, for instance, has more offshore satellites than any empire in history. From the Cayman Islands to the British Virgin Islands, Jersey, and Guernsey. Each one offers something unique: zero taxes, strict secrecy laws, and political independence that allows London to benefit without taking the blame. The result is a web of micronations operating as financial laundromats for global wealth. Oligarchs, corporations, even politicians route their money through them, not to hide from the law, but to rewrite it. Here's how it works. A multinational corporation earns billions in one country, say the United States. Instead of paying taxes there, it shifts profits to a subsidiary in Bermuda or Ireland, where tax rates are near zero. On paper, that's legal. In practice, it's legalized evasion. The money moves, but the product stays. The jobs stay, the streets stay. Only the taxes vanish. This tactic is called profit shifting, and it drains more than $500 billion in global tax revenue every single year. That's money meant for public infrastructure, gone. Money meant for schools and hospitals, erased by accounting entries. But who designs these systems? Who decides what's legal, what's gray, and what's forbidden? Enter the enablers, a tight-knit community of elite bankers, corporate lawyers, and tax strategists who work hand in hand with politicians. They don't meet in smoky back rooms. They meet at summits, panels, and private forums hosted by the World Economic Forum, the IMF, and international banks. They call it global financial optimization. We call it what it is, a shield for the powerful. These architects of secrecy aren't criminals. They're celebrated experts, invited to draft tax codes, advise governments, and write loopholes into international law. Every exemption, every clause, every interpretive flexibility is a doorway for the wealthy to escape accountability. Take the story of Apple, one of the most profitable companies in history. For years, Apple legally funneled profits through a network of Irish subsidiaries with stateless status, meaning they weren't taxed anywhere on Earth. When exposed, Apple didn't apologize. They said, "We followed the law." And they were right, because the law was written for them. This is how power multiplies, through alignment. Governments need corporations to boost their economies. Corporations need governments to grant exemptions. The rich need both sides to stay friendly. And so they fund campaigns, sponsor events, and advise policymakers through think tanks that sound independent, but are often financed by the very industries they claim to regulate. It's a perfect circle, one that begins and ends in influence. Even when scandals erupt, like the Panama Papers or Paradise Papers, nothing truly changes. A few faces resign, a few accounts close, but the machinery rebuilds itself in another jurisdiction, another law firm, another name. Because the system doesn't depend on individuals, it depends on structure. A structure designed to survive exposure. In this world, secrecy isn't just protection, it's currency. Those who can guarantee it profit from it. Those who can't, perish. Data brokers, private bankers, cybersecurity firms, offshore service providers, all competing to promise one thing: invisibility. Some call it innovation, others call it corruption. Both are correct, but the digital age has made the game even bigger. Now secrecy isn't limited to offshore vaults. It's encoded in algorithms, encrypted ledgers, and blockchain-based entities designed to exist everywhere and nowhere at once. The new havens aren't islands, they're servers. A billion-dollar trust can now live inside a hard drive, its ownership hidden behind digital signatures and anonymous wallets. This evolution terrifies regulators because the old tools, subpoenas, audits, paper trails, don't work anymore. Money moves faster than governments can react. By the time investigators track one company, the structure has already been rebuilt in another jurisdiction, under a new name with fresh directors. And who protects it all? Private intelligence firms, run by ex-military, ex-diplomats, and ex-law enforcement, who specialize in shielding high-profile clients from scrutiny. They monitor journalists, they flag regulators, they manipulate narratives. It's not fiction, it's the invisible backbone of global power. In this ecosystem, morality becomes optional. Every move is justified as efficiency. Every loophole is a competitive edge. And every law written to catch the guilty is rewritten to protect them. The result is a two-tiered world, one where money obeys no borders, and one where ordinary citizens can't even move $10,000 without a bank flagging their transaction. That's the great irony. Transparency for the weak, invisibility for the strong. But here's the part no one talks about. This system isn't just surviving, it's expanding, fueled by crisis, fear, and digital transformation. Whenever the world trembles, a war, a pandemic, a financial collapse, the rich retreat into their bunkers of secrecy, and each time they come out richer than before. So far, we've seen how the wealthy use shell companies, trusts, and offshore structures to vanish their fortunes from sight. But hiding money isn't just about protecting wealth. It's about shaping influence, quietly, invisibly, and often completely undetected. Imagine a world where laws are written with one hand, while the other hand guides the flow of billions of dollars. Where policy decisions, regulatory frameworks, and even trade agreements are subtly influenced by entities whose ownership is intentionally obscured. This is the next layer of the offshore empire, the intersection of secrecy and power. Corporations, investment firms, and financial institutions don't just hide money. They also move it strategically. They fund initiatives, support lobbying groups, and invest in think tanks, all with the intent to shape markets, industries, and policies without public scrutiny. Every dollar is a lever, every investment a tool to steer systems in favor of those already holding the keys to the maze. What makes this so effective is its invisibility. Because the structures are legal, the actors operate in broad daylight. Yet the mechanisms are so complex, trusts within trusts, companies within companies, that tracing influence is nearly impossible. By the time a regulator or watchdog tries to follow the trail, it has already been redirected, layered, or transformed. Think of it as a network of silent pressure points. A single offshore entity can fund a research initiative in one country, provide advisory support to a policy committee in another, and invest in a media platform elsewhere. Individually, none of these actions seems extraordinary. Taken together, they create a subtle but powerful architecture of influence that shapes industries, markets, and governance worldwide. And this isn't science fiction. Global financial networks, private law firms, and offshore service providers operate precisely to optimize this system. They advise clients on structuring entities to comply with multiple legal frameworks while maintaining anonymity. They create solutions that allow money to move, decisions to be influenced, and influence to remain largely invisible. At the center of this architecture are the facilitators, the lawyers, accountants, and bankers who understand the intricacies of global finance better than anyone else. They know which jurisdictions allow anonymity, which laws can be leveraged for strategic advantage, and how to structure entities to maintain plausible deniability. Without them, the network collapses. With them, it is nearly untouchable. These facilitators operate on a simple principle. The more invisible the structure, the more power it conveys. By ensuring wealth and influence are hidden behind layers of legality, they allow clients to achieve objectives that would be difficult, if not impossible, to accomplish through transparent means. It's not illegal, it's strategic, it's engineered control. The consequences ripple far beyond finance. When wealth is invisible, so is the influence it carries. Regulatory frameworks may be shaped by unseen actors. Market dynamics can shift without public knowledge. Even the distribution of resources, investments, subsidies, and development funds can be subtly redirected. This system thrives on complexity and opacity. The more layers, jurisdictions, and intermediaries involved, the harder it becomes for outsiders to understand or challenge. The more invisible the architecture, the more control it grants. But it's not just about control over economies. It's about shaping opportunities, influence over industries, guidance of innovation, and the creation of a world where the rules appear uniform but are subtly tilted toward those who have mastered the invisible pathways of wealth. What's remarkable is how normalized it has all become. Structures that once seemed extraordinary, multi-layered trusts, cross-border corporate chains, strategic philanthropic donations, are now standard tools in high-level financial planning. They are taught in elite law schools, executed by top accounting firms, and reinforced by international financial conventions. In essence, the rich aren't just hiding money. They're hiding power, invisible, legal, strategically deployed. And yet, while this architecture operates largely without scrutiny, cracks do appear. Leaks, investigative journalism, and regulatory investigations occasionally illuminate parts of the system, showing the public a glimpse of the vast, complex machinery that quietly orchestrates wealth and influence. But here's the crucial point. The system isn't collapsing. It's evolving. As transparency measures expand, as digital finance grows, the facilitators adapt. New structures, new jurisdictions, and new methods emerge. The network expands, becoming more sophisticated and, paradoxically, even harder to perceive. We've followed the money. We've seen the architecture of secrecy, the facilitators, the invisible levers of power. But now we confront the consequences, the way this invisible wealth quietly reshapes our societies, our economies, and even the opportunities available to ordinary people. When vast wealth is hidden, governance weakens. Tax revenue disappears, leaving governments with less capacity to fund education, healthcare, infrastructure, and social programs. Public services suffer, roads crumble, schools lack resources, hospitals struggle. all while fortunes accumulate in legal shadows, growing faster than the economies of most nations. The impact isn't just theoretical. Consider markets where hidden money flows. Anonymous investments can inflate asset bubbles in real estate, stock markets, or commodities, all without any oversight. Cities experience skyrocketing housing costs, not because of organic demand, but because invisible capital is being strategically positioned to extract value while avoiding scrutiny. Meanwhile, ordinary citizens, workers, small business owners, taxpayers, shoulder the burden. They obey tax laws, report their income transparently, and contribute to the very public systems that the ultra-wealthy quietly sidestep. The system becomes skewed. Compliance penalizes the many, while the few maneuver in legal darkness. Inequality, then, is more than just a wealth disparity. It's a structural advantage, engineered through invisible networks and legal complexity. The rich don't just hold more money, they hold more influence over the very systems that determine opportunity, mobility, and power. The ripple effects extend even further. Political decisions, regulatory reforms, and international agreements can be subtly guided by these invisible hands. Lobbying is just one layer. Behind it lies the strategic placement of wealth to ensure outcomes align with hidden interests. A seemingly neutral policy, a minor amendment, or a trade agreement might shift the entire balance of power, benefiting those whose wealth is intentionally untraceable. Even philanthropy, often seen as benevolent, can serve dual purposes. Donations are funneled through foundations and trusts, providing significant tax benefits while enhancing social influence. Invisible wealth can thus quietly direct the flow of public attention and resources, shaping education, media, and research priorities according to unseen objectives. Global crises, from economic recessions to environmental disasters, are navigated differently by those with invisible wealth. Where most citizens face immediate consequences, job loss, wage cuts, rising costs, the hidden rich can insulate themselves, redirect their assets, and often emerge even stronger. Crisis becomes a mechanism not just for survival, but for consolidating power. This structural advantage creates what some call a two-tiered world. There's one tier for those whose wealth is transparent and accountable, constrained by regulations and taxes, and another for those whose wealth is invisible, fluid, and strategically shielded, free to grow, maneuver, and shape systems without restriction. Perhaps the most unsettling aspect of all this? It's not some hidden conspiracy. It is the natural outcome of a legal and financial architecture designed to favor those who understand it and can afford to use it. There are no secret handshakes, no covert cabals. The system itself is engineered to be opaque, and that opacity confers an incredible advantage. The result is predictable: a massive concentration of wealth, influence, and opportunity in the hands of a very small few. And while public discourse is filled with talk about fairness, accountability, and reform, the mechanisms of invisibility adapt faster than any regulation can respond. Each new law, each policy tweak, is met with a strategic workaround, a new layer of trusts, shell companies, or digital entities designed to remain just beyond oversight. In this world, transparency is optional for the powerful but mandatory for the rest of us. This isn't about morality. It's about survival in a system that rewards the mastery of secrecy. And as society struggles to maintain fairness and equity, invisible wealth quietly shapes the conditions under which we live our lives, pursue our opportunities, and determine our futures. So when we speak of inequality, we're not just talking about numbers on a spreadsheet. We're talking about a global system engineered to protect, grow, and hide influence. A system where wealth is a shield and invisibility is power. A system whose consequences ripple through economies, politics, and societies, visible only when we dare to look closer. The next chapter, we will explore the final layer of this secret empire, the digital and technological tools that allow invisible wealth to operate at unprecedented speed and scale, ensuring control in a rapidly evolving global economy. Because if you want to understand the full story of how the rich hide their money in plain sight, you have to see how the invisible world is adapting to the digital age. The story of hidden wealth is no longer just about tropical islands, shell companies, or secret trusts. It has evolved. It has gone digital. In the 21st century, the tools for hiding fortunes have become faster, smarter, and more impenetrable to traditional oversight than ever before. Cryptocurrencies, blockchain technology, and AI-driven finance platforms now allow enormous sums to move with almost perfect secrecy. Imagine this: no bank statements, no physical transfers, and no paper trail for regulators to follow. This is the new reality. Cryptocurrencies in particular offer what offshore havens always promised: anonymity, speed, and absolute control. A fortune can now be shattered into countless digital wallets, transferred across the globe in seconds, and reassembled without ever triggering a single alarm. It's a system where money exists everywhere and nowhere at the same time. And artificial intelligence has added another, more powerful layer to this fortress of secrecy. AI algorithms can analyze market conditions, predict changes in tax laws, and automatically restructure vast holdings to exploit legal loopholes before human experts even realize they exist. Wealth isn't just hidden anymore, it's self-managing. This invisible money operates at a speed and scale that human regulators simply cannot match. But the implications go far beyond finance. This digital invisibility allows influence to expand in ways we've never seen before. Funding can be silently funneled into research, media outlets, policy think tanks, and lobbying groups without any clear source. Entire markets, industries, and even government policies can be subtly guided by actors who remain completely unseen, legally untouchable, and strategically empowered. The sheer scale is staggering. Trillions of dollars move digitally every single day, most of it completely invisible to public scrutiny. This new infrastructure of wealth is faster, more opaque, and more adaptive than any offshore network of the past. And here's the kicker. For the most part, it's still legal. The future of this invisible wealth is even more sophisticated. Emerging technologies like quantum computing, AI-driven predictive finance, and decentralized autonomous organizations, or DAOs, promise even more complex structures. We're talking about money that can operate almost on its own, shifting to exploit regulatory gaps, tax incentives, or geopolitical shifts without any direct human command. For the average person, this might seem abstract, distant, or even like science fiction. But the reality is stark and has very real consequences. The digital fortress of invisible wealth magnifies the problems we've seen for decades: soaring inequality, skewed opportunities, and a subtle but powerful influence over our politics, industries, and society as a whole. Those who control these digital networks of money can act faster, hide better, and manipulate systems on a scale never before imagined. So the critical question becomes, who holds the keys to this digital kingdom? How can society possibly respond when the ultimate tools of secrecy exist in a virtual space, protected by unbreakable code, encrypted ledgers, and brilliant AI strategies? Traditional oversight is struggling to keep up. Regulators, politicians, and journalists are often playing a game of catch-up, watching a shadow play they can't fully see or understand. Yet, awareness is the first and most crucial step toward change. By understanding how wealth moves invisibly, from old-school offshore havens to these new digital fortresses, we, as a society, gain the power to demand accountability, transparency, and meaningful reform. This isn't a battle against criminals in the traditional sense, but against a system that has been expertly designed to make invisibility the ultimate asset. In the end, the ultra-rich don't just hide money. They hide influence, they hide control. They have successfully created a parallel financial universe that exists alongside our visible world but often dictates its outcomes. From shell companies and offshore trusts to digital wallets and AI-managed funds, invisible wealth has become a formidable force, shaping economies, policies, and entire societies without leaving a single trace. As we venture deeper into this digital era, the challenge only grows greater. Governments, regulators, and citizens must adapt to a world where money is not just a tool of trade, but a tool of invisibility. And the question that hangs over all of us is, how long can a system designed for secrecy remain unseen before it transforms the world beyond recognition? Because one thing is certain, the era of invisible wealth is no longer a secret. It is the new foundation of power, and those who understand it will be the ones who shape our future. Thanks for watching. If you found this video insightful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more deep dives into the forces shaping our world.